Climate Change Mitigation and its Social Impacts, presented by Group 9. Climate change has been a serious issue around the world for decades, but before that, let us explain what climate change actually is. Climate change is defined as a long-term change in temperature and weather patterns in specific places. It can affect the weather adversely and bring about natural disasters like tornadoes, tropical thunderstorms, floods, and droughts. These natural disasters negatively impact the social and economic aspect of a country. Thus, climate change has evolved into a big socio-economic problem because it affects people around the world, especially those from poor countries, and threatens the stability of the community's environment. Climate change is mainly caused by the increase of greenhouse gases on our planet. Researchers have found that reducing greenhouse gases, mainly carbon dioxide, can help reduce the detrimental effects of climate change. Climate change mitigation is the term used globally to reduce the release of greenhouse gas emissions that are warming up our planet. Hence, it is very crucial for us to know more about the social impacts that climate change and mitigation strategies have caused. Next, we move on to the causes of climate change. Maybe you are wondering, what are the root causes that contribute to climate change? There are two main causes that we need to give our attention to, which are natural causes and human causes. Let's start with the natural causes. These include solar variations, the effects of the ocean on the atmosphere, volcanic eruptions, and changes in the planet's orbit. Altogether, these causes may only have a small effect, but they will impact the climate for years. For example, volcanic eruptions are proven to make the Earth cooler by releasing large amounts of sulfur dioxide, water vapor, and dust into the atmosphere. Other than that, carbon dioxide emission that human activities generate is partly absorbed by the ocean, reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. Next up are the human causes. These hold the lion's share of responsibilities for why the global climate continues to worsen. First of all, burning fossil fuels. This is a major driver of detrimental climate change, due to the fact that most sectors still depend on non-renewable fossil fuels as their primary source of energy. To give the viewers a few examples, fossil fuels are burned for industrial processes to generate electricity for both industrial and consumer use, for manufacturing goods, and also for food production. Burning such huge amounts of fossil fuels releases large amounts of carbon dioxide and other toxic greenhouse gases into the air. Besides that, deforestation contributes to climate change as well. Forests are being cut down to make way for farms, pastures, or for other purposes. This contributes to the increase of atmospheric carbon dioxide, as trees that store carbon by absorbing carbon dioxide from the air are cut down. There are also some irresponsible humans that clear forest areas by burning them down. This makes the situation even worse as more carbon dioxide is released by combustion. Next, fertilizers. Inorganic fertilizers are also to blame for climate change. Most farmers use inorganic industrial fertilizers because it has a high nitrogen content, which is a very important nutrient for crops. However, when this fertilizer is excessively used, the leftover nitrogen in the soil can be turned into nitrous oxide by the microorganisms in the soil. An increase in nitrous oxide in the air can have extreme effects on global warming, as nitrous oxide has 300 times more warming potential compared to the most commonly mentioned greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide. Last but not the least, emissions from the transportation sector are also another human cause of climate change. Fossil fuels are typically used to power cars, trucks, ships, and aircrafts. As a result, emission of greenhouse gases, particularly carbon dioxide, are greatly influenced by the transportation sector. Now that we've explored what causes climate change, let us consider its effects. For the non-social effects, one of the most obvious effects of climate change is the rise in global temperatures, and this has a big impact on the planet. As temperatures rise, we are seeing more extreme weather events, such as heat waves, droughts, and storms. These events can have devastating consequences, such as loss of life, damage to infrastructure, and economic disruption. Another major effect of climate change is the alarming rate at which polar ice caps are melting, making the sea levels rise. This can have serious consequences for coastal communities. It can also cause more frequent and severe flooding. In addition to these physical effects, climate change is also having a major impact on the natural world. As temperatures rise, many species are struggling to adapt and are at risk of extinction. This can have a knock-on effect on entire ecosystems. as the loss of one species can have a ripple effect on other species and the overall balance of the system. It's clear that climate change is not just an environmental issue but a social one as well. To start, climate change has a significant impact on food security. We shall now look at how climate change impacts the two major factions of our food industry, agriculture and livestock. Starting with agriculture. Rising temperatures and extreme weather events, especially droughts and floods, can lead to crop failures, which in turn can lead to food shortages and rising food prices. Rising levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide reduce the concentration of protein and essential minerals in most plant species. On the other hand, increasing temperatures have a much more direct impact on livestock industry, as thousands of domestic animals die from heat stroke every year. Another issue is the increased prevalence of diseases and parasites in livestock as a result of climate change. Higher temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns can create ideal conditions for the spread of diseases and parasites. Next, let us look at how climate change affects our health and well-being. The World Health Organization has identified climate change as one of the greatest threats to global health in the 21st century. Climate change has caused temperature extremes in certain parts of the world. Some countries have suffered dramatic increases in death rates during heat waves. Increases in the number of hospital admissions for cardiovascular, kidney, and respiratory disorders can also be observed during heat waves. Another effect of climate change on health is the spread of diseases, as higher temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns can create ideal conditions for transmission of diseases such as malaria, dengue fever, and cholera. Precipitation events have already been uncertain and becoming more extreme as a whole. Thousands of valuable lives are lost each year due to the increasing frequency of floods and landslides caused by heavy rainfall. Climate change is an issue that affects us all, but it disproportionately affects marginalized and vulnerable low-income communities. These communities often lack the resources and infrastructure to adapt to the changing climate and natural disasters that come with it. In the past decade, we have seen numerous communities affected by devastating hurricanes, wildfires, and other natural disasters. These events often leave people homeless and forced to relocate. As discussed earlier, lower crop yields can mean higher prices. This severely affects low-income communities that may not have the means to afford the higher prices and struggle to feed their families. While tackling climate change will require action from governments, businesses, and other organizations, there are also things that we as individuals can do to make a difference. Reduce your carbon footprint. One of the most impactful things we can do is to reduce our own carbon footprint. This means taking steps to reduce our energy consumption, such as using energy-efficient appliances, turning off lights and electronics when not in use, and driving less. Reducing our energy use means more people have access to energy for cheaper. We can also offset our carbon emissions by investing in renewable energy or supporting organizations that work to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Reduce, reuse, recycle. The use of recycled materials in the manufacture of new products reduces the need for raw materials. This lowers greenhouse gas emissions caused by the extraction or mining of raw materials. Furthermore, manufacturing products from recycled materials use less energy than manufacturing products from raw materials. Less energy is required to extract, transport, and process materials to manufacture products when we buy less or reuse products. Buying products made from recycled materials such as paper, plastic, and metal rather than raw materials helps to reduce energy consumption. The lower cost of energy eventually gets passed down to the consumers, which means that the living standard of low-income people increases. Moreover, reducing waste and recycling paper products allows more trees to remain standing and continue to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helping to fight air pollution and, as a consequence, lower the chances of respiratory diseases. Support climate action. Another way to make a difference is to support politicians, businesses, and organizations that are working to combat climate change. This could mean voting for politicians who prioritize the environment, supporting companies that have a strong track record of sustainability, or donating to organizations that work on climate issues. Educate others. Finally, we can help fight climate change by educating others about the issue and the steps they can take to make a difference. This could mean sharing information about climate change on social media, having conversations with friends and family about the issue, or even just being a good example by reducing your own carbon footprint.
To conclude, climate change is a complex and pressing issue, but by taking action and supporting organizations that are working to address it, we can all play a role in combating this global challenge. Thanks for watching, and I hope you will join us in taking action to fight climate change.